here we are. Episode 3.
Wow.
Season 2. Halfway there. Not only in the season, but also the title of the episode.
Oh, cool. How about that?
I mean, technically, at some point in this episode, we will be halfway there because we have 5 episodes per season. So
Sure. So like more two and a half.
you know,
Ooh, twins.
Yeah.
Oh.
I like that. I'm glad we got that on camera because we do that in our lives at points. You know, it's just part of being a twin. But this season, we've been talking about fear, the things that scare us, and our desire to not let fear decide our fate. And we kind of just painted it with a broad brush in the first episode. And last episode, you were willing to be vulnerable and share your struggle, your battle with anxiety. And we kind of just talked about how anxiety in and of itself is kind of what we believe to be the physical manifestation of fear in our lives, kind of that crippling sense where
That on the ledge moment.
the on the ledge. I'm not able to go, or I don't want to go. I'm scared. I'm fearful. I want to survive, but I also want to thrive, and like kind of finding that intersection between both of those. And as we kind of shift gears to talking about ways that we are intentionally using to try to combat the fear in our lives and how we operate when fear presents itself in our lives, the halfway there is the whole point of belief, having faith, and kind of just seeing that we're going to be on the other side of whatever it is that we're facing in that moment.
It's almost like, so if you want to pace the enemy as fear right now, like this is what you're confronting.
Right.
Okay.
This is the boss.
This is the boss I'm going after in terms of video games because
Right.
I see life in movie quotes, video games, and music and all that. But
And all that.
you got this fear. It's the enemy. So it's like, what are you using to battle against it? And in our experience,
What weapons?
in our experience, belief and faith, that's the weapon. Like if you saw it as a sword, that would be it, you know?
Exactly. And for me, it's almost like the constant reminder of like, hey, what's in your hands? So like belief and faith are always things that will be in my hands. Only I can determine for myself what I want to believe, and only I can determine for myself if I'm willing to have faith. And, you know, we grew up in the church, and faith was always defined as like believing in the unseen or something along those lines. And for me, faith is almost what's that line we love? It's faith makes a fool of what makes sense.
Yeah, I have that as a sticky note at my I want to say my office, but it's actually a cubicle.
That's all right.
Desk.
It's an office.
But it says faith makes a fool of what makes sense. It reminds you that your brain is going to try to rationalize fear. Being in fear makes you try to rationalize.
Yeah, it's part of our
things,
design to survive.
But your belief can take you like, hey man, you're operating on a whole nother level if you if you have this faith, if you believe in something greater.
Right. And for me, faith is the opposite of fear. Like, and maybe that's not even the best way to put it, but faith is the avenue through which you can walk into fear, I guess. Because
lean into it, yeah.
Yeah, you lean into it.
Well,
for me, faith is the action that brings about the belief that I see.
The other side of the fear,
right?
You think it's something bad, but actually it's freedom. You know what I mean? It's that expansion of the comfort zone, which we'll talk about more. But just you push yourself past where you think the limits are, and that's what I've learned about just the body. I mean, undergrad was sports medicine, athletic training.
Right, a lot of knowledge about how the body works,
how it heals, and all stuff. Like our body is crazy resilient.
Oh yeah,
and also able with time, consistency, focus to get stronger, better in many ways. Exactly. So, I mean, it's crazy to me. So when you think about this fear and where it tries to, like, I would think of it in terms of an athlete, right? Say an athlete does something like tears an ACL. That's a very common injury at this point with people, especially in sports. And people are like, all right, 9 months, it could be less now. Technologies get better and better each year. Knowledge in terms of rehabilitation and stuff gets better and better. But physically, the athlete at a certain point is ready to go.
Right.
But there's this mental barrier that it could take a year and a half for someone to be fully like, I feel good.
Even after their
body absolutely.
The mental aspect of
the mental
fear
is big. And so we talk about even the fear. I mean, that would be stepping into, I'm scared I'm going to hurt it because I don't think my knee's right.
Right.
Instead of it being like, all right, I know that it's been there.
I know that it's healed. I believe that it's healed.
Exactly.
I believe that I'm going to be capable to do those types of things, to move forward, to maybe we don't want to go back to our old selves anymore. Maybe after we've recovered, let's say if it's an athlete's injury, let's just say in life in general, we've gone through a struggle and we've gotten to the other side of it.
Right.
Allowing that to be a learning moment, allowing that to be something like fear, using fear as I don't want to say positive, because I think it's okay that fear can be negative, but I think viewing it in a way that builds instead of one that distracts or derails.
Right. And you talked about maybe going back. You talk about you kind of, when you go through a moment, you remember the comfortable before the fear.
Right.
So there's a song, and like, hear me out. You're gonna have to sift through some of the stuff, but it's called "Pushing Past the Limit, Tripping on Hallucinogenics." And then he follows it up by saying, "But then I crawled back to the life that I said I wouldn't live in."
Okay.
And if that's not what he says, that's exactly what I hear. But I think about it.
That's what I take away from it. That's what I reflect.
Well,
on.
exactly.
Yeah,
but think about it. He pushed himself past a point because mentally he went there.
Yeah.
And then
ultimately
he told himself he wouldn't go back to living the same way that he did, even throughout the experience that he said that he had. But yet he crawled back to the life because that's what's comfortable, and that's where we go back there. Even once I talked a little bit about skydiving and stuff like that. But yet I still find myself moments of like crazy fear.
Right, and it's not like you can
even on that trip,
like you try to tap back into like overcoming it, and still like you can remember it and you have the memory of it and all that. But in terms of belief and like you have to give if you don't believe that you yourself can overcome, like I have to tell myself in the morning that I believe that I am capable of overcoming what comes my way. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to experience the negative aspects of it, but I have to have that belief I have to speak that belief over my life and ingrain it in my soul so that I can have the faith. Because again, I believe that faith is the action.
Right.
I think faith is the actively working out what you want to see.
Right.
Like doing the things that bring that about.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit. I mean, we mentioned video game boss, this is the enemy in front of you. When you've done work on yourself, or like say you're looking through a lens, you're operating from a more positive belief, mindset,
right.
Everything like that. Like you're already at that 50%. The fear you've already, level 27 fear is who you encounter off the jump instead of this 1, this 2, because like you've worked and you've built yourself up. So now these small pieces of fear, these small ledges, they don't scare you anymore.
Right.
You're already past a certain point. Like if it's hurdles in a race, you're already halfway there. Your starting point is here. So like you're at that point where the boss is going to come in that much stronger.
Right.
But your belief and knowing and
hey, I've gotten past these ledges.
Look at what I've done. Like, I think you even talked about at one point, like reminders. Like,
remind yourself of
battles won. And this is where you start. And then you continue. And it's a constant battle. It's the same thing with like ownership. It's a daily thing. There's a daily fear battle you have to go through multiple times throughout the day. And we can get drummed down, especially living in a first world country, in a certain socioeconomic status or whatever. You can almost like blind yourself.
But you get numb to it?
Right, you get numb. Oh, that's
numb to the fear?
Exactly. Numb to the fear because you ride that comfortable wave.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is fine.
You don't have to worry.
This is okay. But like, when is an okay life? Like, who wants to live a fine life? An okay life? You know what I mean?
Well, why when I find myself staying in these comfort places, why when I'm not believing that I can do something different or be something different, why do I not feel like my soul is what it wants to be?
Right.
Why is there a yearning for something bigger, something greater? And the faith is key. What?
I was about to go back to the alchemist, just being like, there was a point in the story where he got all his money stolen and he worked at a crystal shop. The only point he was making is but he made his money back because he was like, I'm just going to move back and go be a shepherd again. I'm not even going to go for this treasure. Like, bump all that. Like, he went through a traumatic experience, and this like that fear. It's like, this happened. Oh no, I just want to go back to who I was.
Right.
I want to go back to where I was before this all craziness. I want to stay as far away from this type of experience as possible. I'm going to go back to what I know. The sheep will always be there. Like I can always go back to being, but then I can always go back to being a shepherd. He convinces himself as like, no, I don't want to be this guy. The guy who owned the crystal shop never went, he was a Muslim. And he never went to Mecca. He never made the pilgrimage. And he convinced himself when he made enough money, he would go. But then he never wanted to realize that because once he did that, he said, what else would I have to do in my life?
Right.
And the guy was like, the young boy, Santiago, was like, I don't want to be that. So that thought to go back to being a shepherd ended up convincing him to be like, no, I'm going to go chase my dream.
It's funny that you said that because that's another even aspect of fear, the fear of actually accomplishing what you want to accomplish.
Right.
It's almost like we don't even want to believe that we're capable of doing these things that we dream about.
Like you have all these dreams.
You see these things about yourself, and we don't even give ourselves the space to believe that, to have the faith, to do the things, to bring it about, because it's like, but what happens if I do that?
Right.
What if I do get there? What if I do accomplish that? What if I do change that narrative and bring that about in the space around me, in the community around me, or whatever? Because like that's scary too. Being what we actually are supposed to be is scary just as much as not being it.
Oh, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Ooh. So like it's almost like that's why belief and faith are foundational components to combating the fear. Man, I said a lot of like same syllables just right in there.
Alliteration.
Alliteration, that's the word I was looking for. But that's like belief and faith are so vital to overcoming the entirety of fear.
Right.
The fear of the fear of what's scary and doing the things that are unknown, but also the fear of, again, with the unknown, the other aspect of the unknown, the fear of actually doing it and accomplishing it. What happens next? What happens if I reach the thing that I've always wanted in my life to reach? What if there's no other thing to live for?
Right.
That's scary too.
I agree.
So like you have to. And gratitude almost going back to what we talked about in season 1, gratitude almost kind of keeps me in that lane of belief because I'm grateful because I know I've believed before. And I'm grateful that the belief that I had before got me here. And I'm here now. Why does belief have to stay where it's at? Why can't belief grow?
Well, and that goes back to even repeating the most important part is like, remember, it makes a fool out of what makes sense.
Right.
This belief does not, there is no rational way because like there are extraordinary things that happen when belief is there.
Do you think like humans like hundreds of years ago would have seen the world being able to be something what it is today? Do you think they would have believed that was possible?
No, well, I mean,
right? That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like we have no idea what we are capable of until we lean into the fear.
Right.
Fear limits us in experiencing this existence.
Well, I mean, you see even people in life that have certain disabilities that are like, how do they even go on and live a successful life? Because
I'm sitting here complaining about what I got going on.
Well, sure, but they've believed in their ability to go beyond what it is. Like what is in front of them, what people are telling. Shoot, it's like I went through a medical procedure and the doctor was like, you're going to have this for the rest of your life. And I remember being like, I'm not receiving that. I don't receive what you're telling me right now. I don't care what you say, science or whatever. It's like, I'm going to believe in the unrational, this faith. I'm going to have this, like, no, I'm not going to accept that. Now, are there certain practical things you can do to make that faith?
That's the faith.
Exactly. It's active faith. It's not passive.
Yeah. Well, faith is not passive. It's not faith if it's passive.
Right. And then we talked a little bit about passive passenger, like in last season and stuff.
Yeah, but the entirety of it all is that the belief is you have to choose the belief lens that you're gonna, like, if you don't see a purpose to what you're doing, if there's no reason behind it, then you're not going to have the faith to continue to do the actions, to stay consistent, to stay patient, because that's what belief and faith are the things that help you stay consistent, like we said, be patient.
Halfway there, your bar is halfway full.
You already believe
you're there.
You're halfway there. What Teddy Roosevelt, we said that before. Then you love that quote, and I love that quote because
you can tell yourself, I can't, and you're damn right, because you can't if that's what you're believing.
What's that? The story Mom used to always tell us, little engine that could.
I think I can.
Even to this day, she still will text me that.
I hit her with that when she was going through her, like, the beginning of her shoulder stuff. I hit her with some of that. True. Because it is. It's like, man, like, you have to believe that you can do it, and then take one step at a time. Keep moving and moving.
I think, therefore I am. What if it's, I think, therefore I can? Like, you have to be able to, again, you have to see it in your mind. You have to think that you can do it. You have to believe that you can do it. And only you can choose the belief for yourself. That's not something that you can transpose from other people, because ultimately your belief will show up in your actions.
Well,
what you do, your belief will define your legacy. I've said that, your actions will define your legacy. And honestly, show me what you do, I'll show you what you believe type stuff. And that's the key to it all. So if you don't have the belief in yourself in overcoming the fear, you're not going to be able to overcome that fear. You're going to give the fear way more power in your life than you need to.
For real.
Because belief and faith are the things that you have to combat the fear.
When I would even think, me personally, I have a tremendous amount of belief, but I still find myself in moments of being like, man, I don't see it. Like,
isn't that just part of our humanity?
It is. I mean, and it's the whole... I swear I could quote The Alchemist all the time, but it's like they knew where they were going in the desert. There was a star they were following, but they had to go all these different types of ways to get there, but they knew where they were going. So if you have that marker in your life of what you believe, this is how I operate my life every day. If you have that, regardless of what is happening in your day, which way you have to walk in the desert, you look up at the end of the day and you find that star, that's where you're going.
Yeah. And it's almost like that star's that belief.
It is. Well, it's the way that you build yourself.
Right.
Like it's the way that you want to operate in your life.
That you've chosen for yourself, that you've determined for yourself. Because I sound like a broken record, but it's ultimately up to you. Back to that word ultimately, because I love that word. But it's up to you to choose how you view yourself, how you view your life, how you actually act out your life, how you live, those decisions. And if you don't like the actions that you make in certain things, that's where the growth comes in. When you get another opportunity, do different, be different until your last breath. And honestly, if you can stay in that sort of posture towards your existence where like, I'm just trying to actively grow, then the belief will come. It's almost like belief will come with action too. It's almost as if faith comes even first. You just gotta start doing.
Bro, Indiana Jones had to take the step. He could believe the step was there. He still had to take it.
Yeah.
And he didn't see it. Boom. But once he stepped, it was there because he believed and he stepped there. So you still have to make the action of stepping over that ledge, however big that ledge, that leap is.
Right.
But it comes back when you have fear. You're gonna have fear every day in your life.
Right.
But if you don't have this belief, then you won't be able to lean into the fear and then find the freedom on the other side if you don't have the belief as the first thing that you do. Because the fear is insurmountable if you don't believe that you can overcome it.
Exactly. You have to immediately
You have to at least
give
believe
yourself that
I can go
platform.
through this fear. I can jump out of this plane. I can jump off this ledge into the water down there.
And then the faith of me being able to jump out of this plane. All right, I'm gonna slide from here to here.
That's right.
All right, I'm gonna get to the edge of the plane.
That's it.
I'm gonna jump
Break
out
it
of the plane.
down.
But that's it. That's
And at a certain point, you're out of the control, which
Right.
probably in the most of it, you don't have as much control as you think you do, and
We
that's where it
talked
is.
about that.
Yeah, fear of control too, because like you want to try to like make sure that you avoid these things, but it's just
some things are unavoidable.
that's not how life works.
But also, I think they're unavoidable because they're
You're
the
meant to
greatest
go through 'em.
opportunities to
You're meant to go through 'em.
refine us.
If you're present-
to shape how
yeah.
we operate, how we want to engage the world around us, how we want to engage ourselves. And belief is so important. You have to believe in yourself before you can have anybody else believe in you. And
Right.
and there will be these people in your life that will believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself, and you'll need those people. And at some point we'll probably talk about the importance of community and how to get the right people around you, and because we're still obviously learning those types of things and what we want out of life. But it starts with belief. Belief gets you halfway there.
It really does.
And if you're halfway there already from the jump because you see it for yourself, you choose to accept that for yourself, that's where the faith comes in. That's where the belief turns into action, and the faith gets foundational because you know that the habits are critical.
Oh yeah.
And it's a day in, day out process.
It really
I feel
is.
like it's a repetitive thing that we say, but that's the truest statement I could ever say. My life has become a day in, day out process of growth, and that's
Right.
what I want to see.
Where you live them day by day.
And you have to take it day by day, moment by moment,
Mm-hmm.
staying present, staying grateful, choosing to believe, having the faith to do the action, to stay
Mm-hmm.
in the action, knowing that it's never going to be a straight line.
No way. It's always crooked.
It's always crooked.